Before we begin, please take a look at the video thumbnail that I've prepared yesterday before going to bed. Yep, I was going to talk about the revealed Dracthea models and my amazement at Dragonflight Alpha still not being on. In my Australian Eastern Coast Sydney morning just a few hours ago, I find out from Wowhead on Twitter that Alpha is now on, which is great news for us bored and unsubbed veterans of the game, but it also threw a spanner in the works of what I was going to talk about. Additionally, and unsurprisingly, in order to be selected into Alpha, you need to have an active WoW subscription running. This is the biggest legit scam a company can run at a large scale. Look at this. You need to be subbed, aka pay 20 Australian dollars to enter this lottery, with no promise of being selected for Alpha. Some of you don't care, I understand that, but I am bored with my other gaming and I care. So I kind of feel like I needed to jump onto this bandwagon yet again, rather than keep looking at data mined Wowhead screenshots and whatever other creators currently started talking about. And I've never been really an echo chamber channel, so I'm certainly not going to do that. So, since Blizzard was kind enough to refund, no joke, thank you Blizzard, my misguided and very regrettable purchase of Diablo 2 Resurrected that I spoke about in the other video, attracting a whole bunch of trolls who told me how to live my life, the cost of that refund and that amount of money equals to about 2 months of WoW subscription. So I'm going to put that money to good use and resub right now, hoping for an alpha invitation. Yes, just like millions of other unsubbed players, I am most likely playing right into their trap. But well, what can we do? Before we go on to talk about Dracthea, a very little, I promise, intermission for my Path of Exile crowd, if any of you are still listening to me. I am not leaving Path of Exile for WoW. Please, let's just get that clear. There is nothing new currently, unfortunately, in Path of Exile or exciting for me to do, hence no new content for now. But New League 319 will be revealed in very early August, so please stay tuned and I will most certainly be covering it. Finally, let's talk about Dracthea race very briefly, my early impressions from the little of what I've seen of them in action. Let's talk about the talent calculator a tiny bit and all of that. I'm just catching up on all the freshly released alpha news and details myself, so will only acknowledge that there are calculators, functioning calculators, and every bit of information available on Wowhead, as they always do, but I'm not going to talk in depth about any of that for two reasons. First, there are places such as Wowhead itself that will do it infinitely better and more detailed than I ever will. So no point effectively competing with them for me. Plus, I have a life and other things that I do other than data mine and analyze every pixel of the game. And number two, which is most important, we're back to that time when a game fan needs to balance how much information they choose to consume ahead of time versus letting this information sort of reveal itself organically to them when they eventually play the game. I'm very cautious about this point and spoke about it on multiple occasions in the past. I don't want to overfeed myself basically ahead of time, as it would undoubtedly lead to a much earlier sense of burnout, and I'm very conscious of that sense of burnout. I don't want to repeat it, I get to it every time. On the talent trees of Dracthea and other classes for that matter, I'll only say here very briefly that I like and prefer this revamped, more classic look of the talent trees, where one unlocked node leads to another, rather than them sticking to the old, now simplistic select one talent per row model that we've seen in WoW now for a very long time. I think it's too dumbed down and outlived its purpose. Me personally, I believe that. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about it. So I'm glad that they're changing it. My only reservation here so far, playing with the talent calculators on Wowhead website, is the fact that it looks like you have to reach 8 points in the top part of the tree before it allows you to proceed towards the middle part of the tree, and then 20 points before you can proceed towards the lower, more exciting parts of the tree, right? So effectively there are still tiers, there are still rows there, you just don't see them, and they are restricted by those points. I think that this is even though restriction probably should exist, and even though it always has been that way, one way or another, I do think that this particular 8 points and 20 points is too restrictive. But it does feel like a dress-up, rather than a true substance of what the class and spec variety and specialization change is all about. While the illusion here is that you can choose your own path, similarly to what you would do in Path of Exile, but obviously to a lesser scale, I understand that. In fact, your choice is still very, very limited, and you would need to fill out, I don't know, close to half of what's available at that talent tree tier, yeah, before you can proceed to the lower levels and more interesting levels, is my point here. So instead of just straight away, deviating and going down, you need to fill out like most of it anyway before you can take something else. This state currently does not look as exciting to me as I was hoping for them to revamp it too. But I'd like to play with it properly myself, preferably in the game rather than calculators on Wowhead, if I get access to alpha, and pass my own final judgment then. This is just very, very early preview-based thoughts. On to the main bit that I wanted to talk to you about in this video, the looks and customization of Dracthea, a little bit about the specs as well. I kinda like the Dracthea, they grow on me, yes, and I think the recent models previewed by Blizzard and now whatever we see data mined and shown by Wowhead, they look a bit more reassuring than what we've seen in the initial very brief announcement and reveal from the live stream from the devs that happened now, I can't remember, a few weeks, probably month or two ago. But I have a few lingering reservations that I did want to voice in this video. First of all, even with this rather detailed and generous preview and data mining and everything, we can see varieties of models, we can see different colors, horn variances, all of that. Nothing really tells me specifically here that all of these versions, all of these customizations are going to be available to you just from get-go, no problems, no questions asked, go enjoy yourself, Gyro. Can I just choose it, or do I need to effectively join some particular, I'm gonna just use Shadowlands terms here and say be part of a certain covenant or reach certain achievements before some of these no doubt more appealing versions become available to me as a player. So that is my first reservation. In all honesty, I probably wouldn't be surprised if there are some restrictions that are going to be imposed, and that's not a massive issue for me because I've never been too much into this fashion / lipstick on a pig type of gameplay, but and finally, I would like to talk about the fact that I'm a little disappointed with the fact that Dractheas cannot be tanks. Hear me out, please hear me out. I understand that the last added class, Demon Hunters, couldn't be healers. So it's somewhat fair that the new class can't be something else, tanks in this case, okay. But it still sucks for me personally, because I appreciate that a lot of healers out there are rejoicing, just as I'm complaining here, but that's just life, I'm okay with it. So it sucks for me because I mostly play tanks in MMORPGs, and as opposed to the popular opinion of the White Knights lingering among my viewers, I'm not a WoW hater, and quite the opposite, in fact. I want to return to the game. I always have. And giving me a race and a class, or a specialization basically to look forward to in, to do in the months ahead, it would be a very, very powerful pull back into WoW that I absolutely want to feel again, like any retired self-confessed addict does. In this case, okay, their looks are growing on me, I already said, abilities look interesting, I started looking at some previews, and my interest to return to the game definitely grows, I'm not denying that. Models seem fine, provided what I said before in terms of appearance unlocks, that it wouldn't be too restrictive. But I remain reserved on the specializations. I'd probably try playing as a Devastation Dracthea, the DPS spec, but then everyone and their dog will be a Drac DPS once Dragonflight launches, no doubt. So you'll be a dime a dozen, and good luck getting into any groups or even LFR matchmaking. So that already sucks, kinda sucks, doesn't it? Let's just be honest. Healing spec, look, I healed in the past, but I only like a few particular styles of healing. Such as healing over time or absorption effects. I've never been into direct healing methods or anything really weird like Mistweavers. I suppose we don't know enough yet about how Drax will play. I know that some gameplay and some previews of their specs and abilities already are coming through, but it still is too early to tell how will the gameplay feel, especially if I cannot test it. But you know, not being a healer at heart, I wouldn't suspect that I'd have the patience of possibly learning yet another upside down, stand on one foot, clap 3 times to heal the group system that they will most likely implement just for funsies and to introduce some sort of something new. At least that would be probably most likely their way. And then back again to this gaping hole of missing tanking specialization. To be honest, even lore-wise, it makes no sense that no Dracthea was thick and fat enough to go on all 4 and charge chest scales first into the group of mobs when adventuring with their other flimsy healers and ranged DPS Dracthea friends, right? For Demon Hunters, it made sense that they didn't heal anyone, by the way. Because they were all about damage, they were all about rage, they were all about / I-beam, leap on your head and crush you type of thing. That made every bit of sense. Here, no tanking at all? That's a gaping hole. Don't you agree? Tanking is the main way to actually play the way I like to play. I already mentioned it. And to get more into groups, even if there is, you know, if there are plenty of your race running around. So it worked every expansion for me. But clearly it wouldn't work this time. Finally, just very quickly, body sizes and shapes. Again, it sort of is related to more tougher looking, bulkier tanks that are missing clearly. It looks like you can bulk up the Drac a little, like increasing size of the shoulders. I saw all those animations as well online, but there is still only the athletic, very restricted, upright kind of look available. In other words, you cannot be fat and stumpy Drac with massive forearms if that would be something that tickles your fancy, not necessarily mine. I'm just giving an example here. I'm not a fan of those restrictions still existing in 2022 in a game that's revamping its looks and introducing completely new models and trying to boast those. It still looks very, very similar, very restricted in my opinion. And these are kind of my thoughts about Dracthea. I probably will wrap up here, not to make it too ranty. I'm glad that Dragonflight Alpha finally is rolling in. I am going to be in the game now, hoping that I get invited. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know if you already have been invited into Alpha. Are you excited about it starting, regardless of your invitation status? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll be happy to start kind of talking to you, my friends, about this again. And hopefully we will have more to discuss about Dragonflight very soon as the more information reveals itself. I want to thank everyone for tuning into another video from me today. Subscribe for more from me if you haven't already, and I will inevitably talk to you next time. Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Not so fast.